Hello, welcome everybody to the first Kindergarten Parent Academy. This is actually our third Parent Academy for the district, but we're really excited to have our kindergarten parents here with us and guardians to learn all about pre-reading skills, what we can do at home to help our little kindergartner be better prepared for school, better prepared for reading. And some of that, a little spoiler alert, has to do with gameplay. So we're really excited that Melissa Pook is here and Nicole Kurt. Some of you might know her as Nikki Kurt, but they're both speech therapists in our district and work in different schools and district. And they're here to talk to you a little bit about some of the things you can do at home with your child. Really, anybody in elementary school would benefit from all of the techniques that the ladies are going to share with you, but especially our little kindergartner. So welcome to the Parent Academy just for kindergarten. We are recording the session, so we will be able to post this online. So if you do have to hop off, we understand. We'll be posting it online, and we'll also send it out as a follow-up email to all kindergarten parents. And if you do have questions, just throw them into the chat feature. And then at the end, I'll be reading the questions to our speech therapists so that they are able to answer them for you. All right. Welcome. Ladies, are you ready?
Sounds good. Yep. All right. Nikki, if you want to share
I'm going to share my screen. And we'll view the slideshow. Okay.
Perfect. So as Dr. Bivino said, our topic today is kindergarten pre-reading skills. Our goals for tonight are to understand the learning progression that takes place with readers and writers, talk about the importance of rhyming, sequencing, and its impact on early reading ability, giving you guys strategies and activities to do at home, and talking about providing opportunities for real-life experience. So our next slide, what are pre-reading and phonological awareness skills? So phonological awareness is the ability to think about, recognize, and manipulate sounds in spoken language. There are building blocks, and they do build on one another. Phonemic awareness lays the foundations for learning to read and write. Research shows that kids with good phonemic awareness skills are more successful in learning to read and write as well. Research also shows that students who have a good understanding of rhyming from an early age outperform students who had less exposure as well. So focusing on rhyming and including rhyme is really that building block that a lot of our preschool experiences are with kids, but also something we like to focus on as well. So this next slide, we do have a little short video that talks about phonological awareness. There is an Australian accent, which is nice to listen to, and it calls it PA. Yeah, I think to share the volume.
Oop. Sorry about that. Linda, can you help me share the volume? Oh, here we go. Okay, let me try that again.
Essential skill that helps children learning to read or write. Having good PA skills allows a child to play around with sounds and understand how they fit into words. Researchers found that children with strong PA skills are going to have more success reading and spelling when they begin school. Phonological awareness skills include recognizing rhyming words. Does cat rhyme with shoe? No. Does cat rhyme with bat? Yes. Identifying sounds in words. What is the sound at the end of hat? T. Blending sounds to make words. What word do these sounds make? M, e, p. Map. What sounds can you hear in the word moon? M, oo, n. And finally, changing a single sound to make a different word. If you swap the s sound in sad with a d, what word does it make? Dad. Nursery rhymes or rhyming storybooks
So this video does a great job at breaking apart the pieces of phonological awareness, what we're looking at in school, and what those basic concepts are that will help your child be a successful reader.
Phonological awareness, or
Sorry.
PA.
Hold on. Okay.
There. So in our next slide, rhymers will be readers. It's that simple. The author of the Magic Hat has that quote. That's really the part that we're focusing on in this presentation, since we are early in the school year. And rhyming is really that first building block that all those other skills build upon. Rhyming, again, is an early phonological awareness skill, and that's where our focus is. So within rhyming itself, learning to rhyme is a skill that takes place in 3 stages. It can be broken down into being exposed to rhymes, hearing and recognizing rhymes, and producing the rhyme itself. There we go, exposure. So the first step in developing rhyme awareness is to have students listen to stories like nursery rhymes, reading books with them, and also in songs too. There are also many poems and other types of activities within that preschool program, or that you can do at home as well, to make rhyming fun, meaningful, and is a great experience for you and your child to have as well. Learning to read through rhyme too, that exposure with those predictable texts helps kids to learn how to segment words into phonemes and improve their decoding and comprehension abilities. We have some examples in the next couple slides as well. So rhyming books. I'm sure some of these books are familiar to you. These books have lots of rhymes in them, may be familiar to your children as well, and can be silly. So having that opportunity to have a fun experience reading one of these books is something that can help a child understand rhyming or reflect back on as well. Other songs too, The Wheels on a Bus, can help them to remember the rhythm of rhyme. You can also pair rhymes with a motor activity, clapping, patting your knees, which can help them understand it. Research also shows that if you pair words or a verbal exchange with a motor activity like clapping or patting your legs or touching your head, it can help a child hold on to that information. Also, when reading these stories, pausing to give your child the opportunity to fill in that blank. Let's say you read the first 2 pages, you talk about the rhyme, or they get into the rhythm, then you pause to have your child respond and fill in the blank. That's also a natural way to see if your child is understanding rhyming and catching on to it. All right. Another activity you could do at home are rhyming songs. You can listen to them in the car, you could play them before bedtime, you could sing it with your child. Combining, again, the song with those rhythmic movements of clapping or patting your knees can help children understand those patterns. This also can be helpful too if your child is more active and enjoys hopping around or dancing, to help them understand rhyming and catch on to it. Again, having your child in motion too can help them remember this information as well. So we have some songs on here. Also, if you've heard of Jack Hartman, he has a lot of silly videos that you can catch on to. This leads into our next section, which is hearing the rhyme. So kids begin to hear and are aware of when words rhyme or don't rhyme. You can practice this again at home while you're reading to them, in the car through song, or even cooking dinner. You've been throughout like what you're talking to your children about and singing nursery rhymes. You've already been preparing your child to know how to rhyme and be able to identify rhymes. This also leads into what they're learning in kindergarten and being able to connect what you're doing at home with what they're hearing in school too. So This next slide, rhyme production. So you've exposed them to the rhyme, they've heard the rhyme, and now it's getting them to produce the rhyme. Developing that independence in making rhymes and adding to stories or song is really that next step in building confidence in rhyming, which helps build confidence in reading as well. Classic nursery rhymes such as Mother Goose and poems are also very powerful because they are memorable and will again help your child produce the rhyme themselves. This also leads into beginning to identify sounds that come first and last, which also complements those early writing skills as well. I found this scientific quote very interesting. So scientists have discovered that it takes 400 repetitions to create new synapses in the brain, unless it is done in play, in which case it only takes 10 to 20 repetitions. I find this quote very important because when you're playing is when your child will be able to recall and hold on to it. Remember that time we hopped around the kitchen and we were singing that song? Oh yeah, that song was The Wheels on the Bus or The Itsy Bitsy Spider. Those memorable moments help them to understand the concept you're introducing them while having a good time. It also makes it a time that they can reflect on with you as parent and what they enjoy, which later on will connect to reading and learning how to read in the classroom. This next slide here, this is a how-to. It's a great resource for how you can talk to your child about rhyming. This method is more explicit, so they're talking about rhyming and a bag and various objects that are in the bag. But also I wanted to share this with you because this YouTube channel, Show Me How, has a lot of different videos on how you can incorporate letter sound identification, different craft activities at home. It also has some recipes and how to break that down in step-by-step for your child.
Okay, so I'm just going to play this really quickly.
Let's see what we can find in our rhyming bag. Ring!
Ting,
Ping!
bling.
Hi, I'm Rachel. You may know me as Teddy from the Mother Goose Club. And this is my rhyming champion, Olivia.
Hi.
Rhyming is a great way for kids to learn how to play with words and sounds. It also helps them to become better readers and talkers. We'll show you how. This is a great rhyming game. I've just put a bunch of things in a bag. Now you can use a container, a gift bag, paper bag, or a pillowcase. Then we pull one thing out at a time and see how many words we can find that rhyme with that one thing. So for this, we take turns. I'd take out a sock, and then she would say rock. Then I'd say clock. Then she might say block. And you go on as long as you can. Take a look. Okay, Olivia, I have a sock. What rhymes with sock?
Block.
Good. Lock.
Talk.
Mock.
Rock.
Good. Rhyming teaches a skill called phonemic awareness. That's when kids can tell that words are made of sounds. It may seem simple, but it is so important for growing brains to practice phonemic awareness. You and your kids can rhyme all day long. When you're tying your child's shoe, you could say, hey, what rhymes with shoe? Or lace. Or when you're making breakfast, you could say, what rhymes with egg? Or juice. Sometimes I'll be silly and say, let's leave the house, mouse. Or get in the car, star. Hat.
Mat.
Cat.
Cat in the hat.
Ring.
Bling.
Sing.
Ting.
King.
King.
Rhyming is a simple and easy way to learn the sounds of language. And best of all, you don't even have to use real words. The important thing is to play with sounds and have fun. Star.
Nar.
Car.
Wars.
Yes, love it. What rhymes with bug?
Hug.
So get out there and start rhyming. You can't go wrong. The sillier, the better. Help us and other Mother Goose Club families learn by sharing your rhyme ideas and activities.
So I like that video and how it really shows how it doesn't have to be some planned out activity. It could be incidental, or it could be the toys that are around you. I also like too how some of the words the child said were not real words. There's something that we consider to be nonsense words, and that's okay too, because it follows that rhyming pattern. That's still a rhyme. And as you could see, the sillier the better. Have fun with it. But I found this to be a great resource, and again, a great YouTube channel too for other academic-based activities that you could do at home.
Let's see what we can find in our rhyming bag.
Okay. So what's next? If you're saying to yourself, my child can already rhyme, what can I do next? How can we take it a step further? That's what we're going to start to talk about now. So these are some things that we can bring into our daily lives with your children that can really help us to solidify and concrete in those important key concepts that we were talking about with rhyming and with sequencing in your daily lives. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is on the bottom of the screen is the prepositions or position words. So those are going to be the things that you say every day in your life, and you may not even realize you're using them, especially when you're giving your child directions, right? So you're going to be saying things like, put your shoes in the bin, or put your shoes on the shelf. And what happens is some of our students and some of our children just pick those concepts up incidentally, right? Just through conversation and just through daily life activities. And some of our students really need that overt explicit instruction in them. So a really fun activity that I like to do with students with prepositions to teach it and to drive it home is exactly like what what Melissa was saying earlier, is through play. So have your child go under the table, or go behind the couch, or sit on top of the chair versus underneath, or take a stuffed animal. If your child loves stuffed animals as much as my daughter does, she would love to walk around our house putting her stuffed animal in different places using those prepositional concepts. So what that does is it really helps our students learn the spatial concepts and having spatial awareness, so that when their teacher gives them a direction, I want you to write your name at the bottom of the page, they can do that. Or I need you to circle all of the things that are next to, and they give them a direction. So all of these things, all of these earlier developing concepts that we're talking about for kindergarten really set the stage for all of their learning activities and their academics later as they grow and as they keep moving on. I put a picture over here of 8 picture books that really reinforce spatial concepts. My favorite is this book down here on the left called Press Here. It uses spatial concepts on every single page, but in a very fun, very sort of magical way. So every time the child presses on the book exactly where the direction says to, you turn the page and something happens. And so it really sets the stage, and it creates a wonderful environment for predicting and following those directions and using those spatial concepts. But they have so much fun doing it, and so much fun just waiting to see what happens next in the story. So I use that a lot in speech, and my own children love that as well. The other thing that we can really practice is something called ordinal sequencing and ordinal numbers. So ordinal numbers, it's just a fancy way of saying first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So again, things we say every day in our lives, but really bringing the attention to it and bringing the focus on it so that we're making an overt point to our children and really narrating our way through our day. So as exhausting as it sounds to narrate your way through your day, because we all talk to our children all the time, really pretending to be like a sportscaster or a news reporter and just talking about every single step of what you're doing. First, mom's going to put her bag down. Second, I'm going to take my shoes off. Third, I'm going to go wash my hands. Fourth, we're going to do homework together. And that really works to help them understand the things come in order. That leads to sequencing skills. That leads to comprehension skills and being able to tell a story in order. So again, starting the exposure and starting the idea of learning the concept through play and just through daily life activities is one of our best ways to really concrete in those learning concepts and those skills. I put a game on here called the Snail's Pace Race. And it's one of my favorite games to play with kindergartners and first graders. It's a game where they have to work together. There's no winner or loser for the players. It's about seeing which snail comes in first place, in second place, in third place, in fourth place. And it really helps our students learn sequencing skills. It helps them learn position skills because we talk about who's in front of who. So is blue in front of yellow? Is green next to orange? Is pink behind? Things like that. So it's a great game. It works on a lot of different skills at once. And it is really just a lot of fun for them. And they have no idea that they're learning, but they're getting all of that exposure to all of the key concepts that we're looking to focus on. So I just wrote on here, model it, practice it, learn it. And that's really kind of how our students learn, right? You model it as the parent, they practice it together, they learn it, and then they can move on and do it independently. So you can do it while you're getting dressed, while you're playing with toys. Cooking and baking together is a wonderful way to practice spatial concepts and ordinal numbers. And then for all of our boys and girls who love sports, watching sports and talking about the event. So they just, the Giants just got a first down, or they just got a second down. And things like baseball, you can talk about first base and second base. So you can really bring it into all aspects of your day, which is great. So the other part about sequencing is its connection to literacy, which I touched upon a little bit in the previous slide. But sequencing is such a critical skill for comprehension, for reading, and for writing. We need to practice these words very deliberately. So first, next, then, last, beginning, middle, end. All of these things are going to help our students understand that stories have parts, and those parts are important. And if they don't go in the right order, we're not going to be able to understand what we're reading or be able to talk about it. And much of what we do with our readers is have those partner talks, have those teacher talks, and really try to understand what's happening in the story with our characters and with the problem and the solution. And if we can't organize ourselves into a sequence, we're not going to be able to do those higher level thinking skills. So we really want to be able to deliberately use those words. We also want to understand that sequencing is going to help with decoding skills, which are those reading skills where we sound out each part of the word. So we know what sound comes first, what sound comes next, what sound comes last. And if we're trying to do things like rhyming, like what Melissa was saying earlier, and doing word families, we're going to keep that last sound the same, but we're going to change the first sound or the beginning sound. So they have to understand what those concepts mean and how to manipulate them inside of their heads. So like I said before, sequencing starts really with daily life activities and doing fun things like puzzles and activities like I have pictured here. And then it goes on and gets bigger into things like stories in school. So these are just some videos I found about sequencing in action. So again, Jack Hartman, it's great. The kids love him. They love his music and his activities. And he, in this video, explains to you how to sequence the parts of a story with a very familiar story using the tortoise and the hare. And then another activity is just cooking with your children. So this little boy, Jamie Oliver, was showing kids how to make pancakes, and he was talking about all of those sequencing words, which is wonderful. Oops. Sorry. I didn't realize it was going to play. Okay, so sequencing in songs. Songs help students to remember rhyme, to predict rhyme, and to be able to infer or to guess what's coming next. So because songs are so predictable, especially songs like nursery rhymes and songs that they know and there's movements associated with them, you can then, as the parent, pull back a little bit And like Melissa was saying, leave the word out and let them fill in the blanks for you. And again, these all relate directly to reading comprehension skills. Okay, so sequencing at home. These, again, we talked about some of this before, but these are just some types of activities that you can do to sequence at home and practice it. Research shows that children learn new concepts, like we said, faster through play than any other way. So if you're teaching a child a new concept through a paper and a pencil activity, it's going to take 80 to 100 exposures for them to learn that. However, if you do it through play, like Melissa said, it takes 10 to 20 exposures. So that's a really powerful fact and research to show us that learning through play is very, very important. Okay, so the critical kindergarten concepts that we are focusing on and that we really need our students to learn innately and just understand so well are the ones right here. So beginning, middle, end, those are our sequencing skills. Front, back, top, bottom, under, and behind, those are our positional words. And then knowing our right from our left, right? Because our teachers are going to be using that in all sorts of activities. Our ordinal numbers, first, second, third. And then of course our rhyming, right? That's our biggest pre-reading skill. So those are the concepts that, the key concepts that not only help our students in their everyday lives, but directly links to their reading comprehension and their academic success. And then we're going to talk a little bit about vocabulary expansion. So I thought this was pretty powerful as well. Studies show that early, so what they're calling early is kindergarten through second grade, vocabulary development leads to stronger comprehension skills in grade 3 and above. And then the opposite is true for those with limited vocabulary repertoires or vocabulary banks. These students may show difficulties with comprehension tasks due to lack of understanding of the concept vocabulary in the subject text. So basically what this means is when your student has a really rich vocabulary and rich understanding of different subject matter, they're going to be able to take that and use it. So for example, subject or concept specific vocabulary would be like science words, right? Or math words. So if they're going to say, we're going, what process is left? We need to understand what left means. So a way to help that along is to use different tiers of vocabulary to make sure that you're using different types of synonyms. So if you say, oh my goodness, that was so funny, then maybe the next time, instead of saying funny, you might say, oh my goodness, that was hilarious. And you give them another way to say the word. Maybe you always call their cup of water their drink. What type of drink do you want today? Tomorrow you're going to switch it up and you might get fancy and say, I'm going to use a fancy word today. What beverage would you like with dinner? And expose them to that higher level vocabulary and that higher level thinking so that their brains start to associate, okay, these two words have similar meanings and I can use them to get that same thing that I'm looking for.
And another, a book series that's really good with that is Fancy Nancy.
Yes.
So she tends to say another word for funny is hilarious.
Right.
And I know it's a popular series too, but that's a great one to read with your child to help explain that, but also to expose them to these vocabulary words as well.
Yep. And exactly. And it goes right along with what we said earlier about narrating your day. You're just going to keep exchanging words that you use for different words. So you can say that's true and then change it to that's right and then change it to that's correct. So you're constantly feeding them with new vocabulary that they're going to pick up and just keep on using. And one of my favorite quotes at the bottom is the more you read, the more you know, and the more places you'll go. So we just keep reading, keep exposing. So the last thing we wanted to talk about was a really wonderful initiative that we have here in Mahwah is we have a lending library of games, of board games for our kindergarten students. So there's 2 sets of each of the games listed that are available at each of the elementary schools for you to take home, to play with your students, and then you can bring back. So when playing these games, really the goal is, number one, always have fun, to understand the sequences, to develop and reinforce that vocabulary that we talked about. Like all of these games are super rich with vocabulary. We're enhancing our social skills and just practicing those turn-taking skills. We're increasing that school family connection, and we're really understanding how to problem solve, because when something goes wrong in a game, we have to figure out where to go next. So if you would like to borrow one of the games, just reach out to your school secretary and they can get you in touch with the teacher and figure out how to borrow the games and play them at home. And that's all we have for our slides.
All right, thank you so much, ladies. So I'm just going to, I'm going to keep you on spotlight. If you have any questions, families, caregivers that are out there, if you have any questions, you can put them right in the chat. You can raise a hand and I can unmute you, but we'll stay on for a minute or two if you have any questions. If not, that's okay as well. You can always send us an email if you have one later. All right. So as we close out our night, like I said before, if you do have a question, you can always send us an email and we'll be able to get back to you. Mrs. Pook, Mrs. Kurt, thank you so much for being here, sharing your expertise and what you do for kids and just fun ways we can bring that home to our students and our children in our house. Sometimes as a parent, we don't know what you're doing in school and we don't know how to do it, but we can certainly rhyme, we can certainly sing, we can certainly watch videos and change our vocabulary and do all these fun things while we're driving even. So we can do all of these things, right? But thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing your knowledge.